everyone, it's me, Krista. Welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. If not, welcome for the very first time to my little art corner here on YouTube. Today we're doing prompt number 15? Maybe? Whatever, it's Outpost. That's what we're doing today. We're drawing an outpost. This one was actually very hard for me to think of anything. I usually don't draw buildings at all. I actually really hate doing it. It is my least favorite thing in the entire world to draw. But I went through and thought of a bunch of different stuff. I thought of possibly doing an outpost from Skyrim, doing one from Star Wars, because there are a bunch of different outposts in Star Wars, especially from video games, movies, a lot of resources there. Decided against that. Thought about The Witcher, decided against that. Thought about doing kind of an old Wild West one. No. What did I land on? The Outpost from the film The Thing. The Thing is one of my favorite horror movies. Not just horror movies, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Probably because it's loosely based off of an H.P. Lovecraft story, for one. Secondly, the story itself, awesome. You don't know what's going on through half the movie. Thirdly, the practical effects are amazing. They are so much better than anything that could ever be done with CGI. Fourthly, it's very suspenseful. Fifthly, Kurt Russell. Prime 80s Kurt Russell. That is all. Love the movie. If you haven't seen it, watch it. So for this project itself, I found a still of the actual outpost where everything takes place in Antarctica, and am doing a marker drawing of it. I am just using a 4x6 watercolor postcard, used a mechanical pencil to get my sketch in, and then I'm just using a bunch of alcohol-based markers, doing some shading for the snowy mountain areas. And for a lot of this, I am using my little circle stencil to help me draw straight lines, because I cannot draw a straight line, even with a straight edge apparently, because I can see right now that some of my lines are a little wonky. There are going to be a lot of small, delicate lines in this one. I am using a Faber-Castell Pitt pen, a medium-sized one for some of them, and I'm also using a Pentel hybrid Technica Arts pen for the even smaller ones. Lots of fine detail work in this one for sure. For the sides of the building, at first I am just doing a straight wash of a color. The sky, I actually mixed a couple of different markers together. One was a Copic one that has kind of a purplish tint to it, and then I pulled over the Marabu sketch Graphix markers to even it out a little bit. I wanted the sky to be a completely different tone color-wise than the rest of the drawing. Yes, it's still a gray, but it is more of a purpley based gray, whereas the rest seems to be more of a blue based gray. After I get my base tones on certain sides of the building, I use my Faber-Castell liner to do some small little lines to help mimic siding, first of all, but second of all, I add an extra layer of shading. I use that black marker, and then I later pull in the white gel pen on the siding as well to lighten up certain areas too. I do leave a lot of the white of the paper in certain areas, especially on the roofs and for part of the mountainous areas, because there is a lot of snow. And I actually remembered to leave that white of the paper. I do end up pulling in my water-based Sharpie later and more of that white gel pen to help relighten up certain areas and to help blend some of what I have going on out. Because I am working on such a small scale with this one, I am doing a lot of very tiny lines. Be careful if you have any level of hand agitation, because I know for me doing this one, it actually ended up hurting my hand a little bit, just because of the repetitive, very small strokes. I still can't find my compression glove. I probably need to buy a new one for when I do projects like this. My hand doesn't hurt every time I draw or paint, but for ones like this, where I'm doing a lot of small, tiny, controlled strokes, it does bother my hand a little bit. At this point in the drawing, I'm just going to be jumping around with the different markers I have and blending it out. I am just adding more layers and getting more variation and shading going on, basically. I wanted to add some lines and texturing into the snow just to make it look a little bit better and more like it belonged with the rest of the drawing. If I didn't do this, there would be absolutely no shading in those mountains of snow or in the snow in the foreground. It just needs a little bit in order to help it along. This is obviously not the most realistic of drawings, it's definitely more of an illustrative style, but I still wanted a little bit of shading variation going on. I decided to darken up the sky a little bit more just so that the mountain stood out better against the background. Then I start adding some shading to the foreground area and then pulling in my liner to add some lines for some differentiation. To help blend things out, I've also been pulling in a Winsor Newton pigment marker. This one is a white blender. I believe these ones are actually water-based, but they work pretty well for blending out even alcohol-based markers. I like using this one because it can lighten stuff up slightly, but it can also blend things together pretty darn well. Since I darkened up the sky, I decided I wanted to add a moon and some stars going on, so I end up using my circle stencil and my white Sharpie to try to put a moon there. It does get messed up a little bit, so I do fix it by using my white gel pen, and I also use my white gel pen to make some little dots to be stars in my background. I also pull in my white Sharpie again in order to help pull back out some really bright highlights from what I have going on. Even though I left the white of the paper in a lot of sections, I still like pulling this in to help clean up certain lines and to help make certain areas stand out that little bit more. Overall, even though trying to figure out what to draw for this project was stressing me out pretty severely, I think it turned out pretty well. I have been doing a couple more landscapes lately than I've ever done before, and then doing a couple of buildings in this one. I think it's nice to try to push myself to do stuff that I normally don't really like drawing, because it shows that, hey, you can do it if you try to. There are quite a few little radio towers in this one, and to do those, I am just using the straight edge of my stencil, using my Faber-Castell liner, and for the smallest lines, I am just using my small pen to do a little differentiation. I'm waiting to do this at the very end so that everything else is done and I just have to place these over them. But with that, this drawing and therefore this video is pretty much done. If you liked it, please hit that like button. If you have any comments, questions, feelings, or concerns, or you want to let me know what you're doing for this Inktober, let me know all about that in that comment section down below. If you want to see more videos like this, please feel free to subscribe. I am going to be doing an Inktober project video every day for the month of October, so stay tuned for those. As always, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day or night to watch this video and listen to me ramble. I greatly appreciate it. I look forward to hearing from you guys soon, and you will definitely be hearing from me soon. Bye, everybody!